My name is Emily, and I work as a web designer from my rented apartment. I've been doing this for a few years now, and I love it. My bosses don't mind since I always stick to deadlines and deliver quality work on time. I'm disciplined with my schedule, up at 7, at my desk by 8, and working until 5 with breaks in between. Despite having a legitimate career, my family, especially my older sister Karen, 7 years my senior, and my parents, think I just sit around all day doing nothing. "So you're still playing on your computer all day?" Karen would ask at family dinners. "It's not playing, Karen, I design websites for actual businesses. It's a full-time job," I'd explain for the 100th time. Sure, she'd say, waving her hand. "Must be nice to sit in your pajamas all day." My parents weren't any better. Dad would ask when I was getting a real job, and Mom would share newspaper job listings. "I have a real job, Dad. I make good money, and I have benefits." "But you're just sitting at home all day," Mom would say. In an office, I'd be sitting at a desk all day too. "What's the difference?" They'd just exchange looks and change the subject. The real problem started about a year ago when Karen went through a nasty divorce with Mark. She got custody of their 2 boys, Jack, 7 years old, and Tyler, 4 years old, and Mark had to pay child support. After the divorce, Karen suddenly developed an active social life. And since she thought I was just sitting my pants at home, she began dropping off Jack and Tyler without warning. The first few times, I tried to be understanding. Karen would text me 20 minutes before showing up. Just an announcement that I was becoming an unpaid babysitter. The boys were sweet but exhausting. Jack was curious about everything, constantly touching my work equipment. Tyler needed constant supervision. While I could get by with a sandwich during work, the boys needed actual meals. I'd have to stop working, cook for them, clean up, entertain them, and somehow try to finish my work. One bad day, Karen dropped them off at 2 p.m. during an important project with a 5 p.m. deadline. "I'll be back around 8, she said, already leaving. "Karen, wait, I have a deadline today." "You can still do your computer stuff. They'll just play around you." By the time she picked them up at 9 p.m., an hour late, I was beyond stressed. I stayed up until 3 a.m. finishing my work. The next morning, I called Karen. "Look, I love the boys, but I can't watch them during work hours. It's affecting my job." "Oh, don't exaggerate," she scoffed. "You're just clicking around on a computer. You just need to manage your time better." 2 days later, my doorbell rang. I saw Karen with Jack and Tyler through the peephole. I didn't open the door. "Emily, I know you're in there, open up," Karen shouted, pounding. "Karen, I told you I can't babysit today. I'm working. Find someone else or hire a babysitter." "You selfish bastard," she hissed. "Fine, I hope you're happy sitting alone in there." I heard her stomp away with the boys. I felt terrible for the kids, but relieved to have stood my ground. That relief lasted 1 hour before my phone rang. "Mom." "Emily, what is wrong with you?" Mom blasted, before I could even say hello. Karen called in tears. She had to cancel her date because you refused to help with the boys. "Mom, I was working." Karen can't just drop her kids off without asking first. She's your sister, she's going through a difficult time. The least you could do is help her. I have helped her, multiple times. But I have a job that I need to focus on. I can't believe how self-centered you've become, Mom said with that disappointed tone. Your sister needs you, and you're too busy with your little computer hobby to care. It's not a hobby, it's my job, I shouted. And if Karen wants to go on dates, she needs to plan childcare properly. Mom hung up on me. I threw my phone onto the couch and screamed into a pillow. Why was I the villain for having boundaries? After that, there was silence from my family. No calls from Karen, no guilt-tripping from Mom, nothing from Dad. While I missed them, the peace was wonderful. I could work uninterrupted and not worry about surprise visitors. 2 weeks passed. Then my phone rang, Mom again. Emily, we'd like you to come over for dinner tomorrow night. Around 6? Okay, I'll be there. The next evening, I drove to my parents' house. When I arrived, the driveway was full, my parents' and Karen's cars, plus an unfamiliar SUV. I walked in to find quite the gathering. My parents, Karen and her boys, plus a tall man I'd never seen before, with a little girl around 6. Karen embraced me like nothing had happened. Emily, I'm so glad you could make it, she pulled me toward the man. This is Brad, my fiancé. And this is his daughter, Lily. Brad shook my hand warmly. I've heard so much about you, Emily. I blinked in surprise. Fiancé? When had this happened? Nice to meet you too, I said automatically. Isn't this wonderful? Mom gushed. The whole family together. We all sat down for dinner. Karen was surprisingly attentive, laughing at my jokes, asking about my work. Something was definitely up. After the main course, Karen cleared her throat. So, Brad and I have some exciting news. We're planning a romantic getaway in 2 weeks, 10 days in Cancun. That sounds lovely, I said, you deserve a break. Thanks, she squeezed my hand. And we were hoping you could watch the kids while we're gone. And there it was, the real reason for the dinner and sudden niceness. The kids, I repeated. Yes, Jack and Tyler, and Lily too, Karen said brightly. Everyone was looking at me expectantly. Actually, I said, I'm going to Hawaii next week for 2 weeks. It's already booked. Karen's smile faltered. Hawaii? Yes, I've been planning it for months, I leave next Saturday. An uncomfortable silence fell. Karen turned to our parents. Mom, Dad, could you? We're visiting Aunt Linda in Oregon for a month, Mom quickly said. We leave this Friday. Karen turned to Brad with a forced smile. Well, it's all settled then. Emily will watch the kids before she leaves. What? No, that's not what I said at all. Karen's pleasant facade cracked. Are you kidding me? You can't help us out for 1 week? I said no, Karen, you need to find someone else. Karen's face reddened. You selfish bastard. You never think about anyone but yourself. I stood up. I am not selfish for having boundaries, I am not your on-call babysitter. I have my own life. What life? Karen spat. You don't have a family or kids. What else could you possibly have to do that's so important? Dad finally spoke. Emily, be reasonable, your sister has found someone special. Of course I want her to be happy, I said through gritted teeth. But not at the expense of my own plans. Mom joined in. Emily, you have no family responsibilities. Your sister has 3 children now, you need to make sacrifices. No, I don't need to cancel my vacation for Karen's trip that she planned without asking me first. I grabbed my purse and headed for the door. Emily, Karen shouted. Don't you dare walk out. But I did. I walked out and slammed the door behind me, ignoring their calls to come back. I expected a barrage of calls and texts after I walked out of my parents' house, but surprisingly, my phone remained silent. No angry voicemails from Mom, no guilt-tripping texts from Karen. Nothing. Initially, I was on edge, waiting for the other shoe to drop. But as days passed without contact, I gradually relaxed. Maybe they'd finally realized I wasn't going to cave in. Maybe they were respecting my boundaries for once. I threw myself into work, finishing all my pending projects, before my vacation. I didn't want anything hanging over my head while I was in Hawaii. By Friday, I'd completed everything and packed my bags. My flight was early Saturday morning. That night, I slept better than I had in weeks. No family drama, no work stress. Just the anticipation of white sand beaches and crystal blue waters. At the airport, I kept looking over my shoulder, half expecting Karen or my parents to appear and make a scene. But nothing happened. I boarded my flight without incident and took off for paradise. Hawaii was everything I'd hoped for. The hotel was perfect, beachfront, with a balcony overlooking the ocean. I spent my days lounging on the beach, swimming, hiking, and trying local cuisine. I even went on a whale watching tour and saw a mother and her calf breaching just yards from our boat. I'd been there for a week when my phone buzzed with a text from Karen. I almost didn't check it. I'd promised myself this would be a work-free, family drama-free vacation, but curiosity got the better of me. Emergency. Call me now. I rolled my eyes. Classic Karen, everything was an emergency with her. Another text came through. It's about Mom, life or death, call me. My stomach dropped. Mom? Life or death? Despite everything, I felt a surge of panic. I immediately called Karen. What's wrong with Mom? I demanded as soon as she picked up. Karen's voice was shaky. Thank God, Mom's in the hospital, heart problems. It's really bad, the doctors aren't sure. My hand flew to my mouth. Oh my God. When did this happen? Yesterday. We didn't want to worry you, but it's getting worse. She's been asking for you. I'll be on the next flight home, I said, already pulling out my laptop to book tickets. Thank you, I knew you'd come. I hung up and immediately tried calling Mom's phone. No answer. Then Dad's. Straight to voicemail. With shaking hands, I booked the first available flight back home. It wasn't cheap to change my plans, but none of that mattered. Mom was sick. Mom needed me. The flight back was torturous. My mind kept conjuring worst-case scenarios. What if I didn't make it in time? What if the last thing Mom remembered was me storming out of that dinner? I landed and rushed through the airport, not even bothering to collect my checked bag. I'd deal with that later. I jumped in a taxi and gave my parents' address. When I arrived, the house was dark, no cars in the driveway. I tried the door, locked. My heart pounded. Had they transferred Mom to a different hospital? Were they already at a funeral home making arrangements? I called Karen again, no answer. I took another taxi to Karen's house. There were lights on inside, which was promising. I rang the doorbell, breathless with worry. The door opened, but it wasn't Karen. It was Jack, Karen's 7-year-old. Aunt Emily, he exclaimed. Mom said you'd be coming to stay with us. I stared at him in confusion. Jack, where's your mom? And where's Grandma? Mom left this morning. She said you were coming to watch us while she and Brad went on vacation. The blood drained from my face as realization dawned. There was no emergency. Mom wasn't in the hospital. I'd been played. I stood in the doorway, too stunned to speak. Jack tugged at my hand. Aunt Emily, are you coming in? Tyler and Lily are hungry. Numbly, I followed him inside. There they were, all 3 kids, watching TV in the living room. No adults in sight. I'd never felt so angry in my life. Karen had lied about our mother being on her deathbed just to trick me into babysitting. Who does that? How long have you been alone? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Mom left after breakfast, Lily said. She said you'd be here soon. It was now 4 p.m. These children had been alone for hours. I took a deep breath, this wasn't their fault. Okay, let's get you all something to eat. While the kids ate the sandwiches I made, I called Karen. This time, she answered. Oh, Emily, did you make it home okay? Her voice was cheerful, relaxed. I could hear ocean waves in the background. What the hell, Karen? You lied about Mom being in the hospital? She laughed. Well, it was the only way to get you back. You're so predictable, Em. This isn't funny, you left 3 young children alone for hours. I knew you'd get there. Besides, Jack is very responsible. He's 7, Karen, 7. Do you have any idea how dangerous that was? Oh, stop being so dramatic. They're fine, aren't they? Anyway, Brad and I are having an amazing time. The resort is gorgeous. I was speechless with rage. Mom and Dad know what you did, I finally managed to ask. Of course. Mom said she didn't answer your calls because she didn't want to give the game away. We'll be back next Sunday. There's money for groceries in the kitchen drawer. Oh, and Lily is allergic to strawberries. She hung up before I could respond. I stood in Karen's kitchen, surrounded by 3 children who weren't my responsibility, with my vacation ruined and my trust in my family shattered. I wanted to call my parents and scream at them, but what good would that do? They'd clearly chosen their side. My first instinct was to call Karen's ex-husband and tell him she'd abandoned their children, but I stopped myself. Mark was a mean drunk who'd been emotionally abusive during their marriage. I couldn't put Jack and Tyler in his care, no matter how angry I was at Karen. As I processed what to do, Lily tugged at my sleeve. "Can I draw something?" she asked, her big eyes looking up at me. I was about to hand her some paper when a thought struck me. A deliciously vengeful thought. "You know what, Lily?" I said with a smile. "You can draw anywhere you want. The walls, the doors, this whole house is your canvas." Her eyes widened with delight. "Really? Mom never lets me draw on walls." "Well, I'm not your mom," I said. "And I think this house could use some color. Boys, you want to help?" Jack looked uncertain. "Won't Mom be mad?" "Don't worry about your mom," I said, "this is between me and her. Go get your art supplies." As Lily ran to get her markers and crayons, I knew I was being petty. But Karen had crossed a line. She'd lied about our mother being on her deathbed. She'd abandoned her children for hours. She'd ruined my vacation. And if she wanted free childcare so badly, she was going to get exactly what she paid for. For the next week, I made only one rule: no endangering themselves or each other. Everything else was fair game. They ate chips and ice cream in the living room. They jumped on furniture. They had food fights. And yes, they drew on every available surface: walls, doors, even the refrigerator. Karen didn't call once during the week to check on her children. Neither did my parents. It was like they'd all collectively decided that since I was handling it, they didn't need to bother. By Sunday, Karen's house looked like a tornado had hit it. Crayon murals covered the walls. The carpet was stained with juice and crushed chips. The kitchen was a disaster zone of dirty dishes and spilled food. And I didn't clean a single thing. Around noon, Karen texted that they'd landed and would be home in an hour. I gathered my things, said goodbye to the kids, and waited outside for Karen's car to pull up. When they arrived, Karen and Brad looked tanned and happy. Karen gave me a hug that I didn't return. "Thanks so much for helping out, Em," she said, not even acknowledging what she'd done. The kids weren't too much trouble, were they? Not at all, they're wonderful children, very creative. "Well, I should get going," I said, backing toward my car. "Enjoy the rest of your day." Karen waved as I drove off. I turned off my phone as soon as I got home, knowing what was coming. I took a long, hot shower, made myself some tea, and tried to process everything that had happened. The deliberate manipulation. The lie about Mom's health. The fact that my entire family had been in on it. I slept like a baby that night, the deep, dreamless sleep of someone who's finally stood up for themselves. When I woke up the next morning, I turned on my phone and was greeted by an avalanche of notifications. 27 missed calls from Karen. 15 from my mother. 12 from my father. And over 100 text messages, each more furious than the last. "Karen, what the hell did you do to my house? Mom, Emily, call us right now, this behavior is unacceptable. Karen, my walls are destroyed, the carpet is ruined. Dad, your mother is very upset, you need to make this right." I scrolled through the barrage of messages, sipping my coffee calmly. I didn't feel guilty. Not even a little bit. Around noon, there was a pounding at my door that could only be Karen. I considered not answering, but I wasn't going to hide. I opened the door to find Karen and my mother, both red-faced with fury. "You," Karen pushed past me into my apartment. "You evil, vindictive bastard." Mom followed, looking around my apartment as if searching for evidence of further crimes. "I can't believe you would do something so childish, Emily." I closed the door and leaned against it. "Please, come in," I said dryly. Karen was pacing my living room. "Do you have any idea how much damage you caused? The walls need to be completely repainted. The carpet might need to be replaced entirely." "That's terrible," I said, not bothering to sound sincere. Karen stopped pacing and pointed a finger at me. "I've calculated the damages. You owe me $10,000 for repairs." I laughed, I couldn't help it. "This isn't funny," Karen screamed. "My house is destroyed because of you." "No, Karen, your house is destroyed because you lied about our mother being on her deathbed to trick me into babysitting." Mom stepped between us. "That was a bit extreme, I'll admit, but—" "A bit extreme?" I cut her off. "She said you were dying, Mom. That doctors weren't sure you'd make it. Do you have any idea what that felt like? The entire flight home, I thought I might never see you alive again." Mom at least had the decency to look uncomfortable. "Well, yes, but she was desperate." "And that makes it okay?" I asked. "Lying about someone dying is okay if you're desperate for free childcare?" "Of course not," Mom said, "but destroying her house isn't the answer either." Karen fumed, her hands balled into fists. "You're going to pay for the damages, or I'll take you to court." I crossed my arms. "Go ahead. And when we're in court, I'll be sure to mention how you left 3 children under the age of 8 alone for hours while you flew off to another country. I wonder what a judge would think of that. Or Child Protective Services?" Karen's face paled. "You wouldn't." "Why not? You had no problem lying about Mom being on her deathbed." Mom shifted uncomfortably. "I thought it was just a little white lie." "There's nothing little about telling someone their mother is dying." My voice broke. "Do you have any idea what that did to me?" For the first time, I saw a flicker of genuine remorse in Mom's eyes. "I didn't think of it that way." "Of course you didn't," I said, suddenly tired. "You never think about how your actions affect me, none of you do. You just expect me to drop everything whenever it's convenient for you, because apparently my time isn't valuable. My career isn't real. My plans don't matter." We stood in silence for a long moment. Finally, Karen spoke, her voice hard. "I'm not paying to fix my own house. Either you pay for the damages, or I'll sue you." I looked her directly in the eyes. "And I'll tell your ex-husband that you left his children alone for hours. I'll tell the judge you lied about Mom being in the hospital. I'll tell everyone what kind of person you really are, Karen." The threat hung in the air between us. "You wouldn't do that to me," Karen said, but she sounded uncertain. "You faked Mom's heart attack," I said flatly. "You don't get to tell me what I would and wouldn't do anymore." Mom touched Karen's arm. "Let's go, this isn't helping." Karen jerked away from her. "Fine, but this isn't over, Emily." She stormed out of my apartment. Mom lingered in the doorway. "Emily, Just go, Mom," I said wearily. "I can't talk to you right now." She nodded sadly and left. I closed the door behind them and leaned against it, exhausted. The confrontation had drained me completely. I didn't hear from any of them for months after that. No calls, no texts, no surprise visits. It was as if my family had decided I no longer existed. And honestly, it was peaceful. I threw myself into my work, took on new clients, and even got a promotion. I went on a few dates, made new friends, and started taking weekend trips to explore nearby cities. Life without my family's drama was surprisingly liberating. No more unexpected babysitting demands. No more dismissive comments about my career. No more walking on eggshells to avoid conflict. I missed them sometimes, of course. I'd see a mother and daughter shopping together, or siblings laughing over coffee, and feel a pang of loss. But then I'd remember the lies, the manipulation, the complete disregard for my life and choices, and the feeling would pass. Then, out of the blue, I received an envelope in the mail. Inside was a formal invitation to Karen and Brad's wedding. No note, no personal message, just the invitation. I stared at it for a long time, unsure how to feel. Was this an olive branch? A trap? A formality they felt obligated to extend? I set it aside, unable to decide. A week later, my phone rang with my mother's number. After a moment's hesitation, I answered, "Hello?" Emily, Mom's voice was tentative. "How are you? Did you get Karen's wedding invitation?" "I did." Another silence. "Are you coming?" Mom finally asked. I sighed. "I don't know, Mom, it's complicated." "I know," she said quietly. "I've been thinking a lot about what happened. You were right, what we did was wrong. Lying about me being sick, it was cruel. I should have stopped it. I didn't know what to say. In all my life, I couldn't remember my mother ever admitting she was wrong about anything. I'm sorry, Emily," she continued, "I truly am. And I think Karen is too, in her way. She's just, you know how she is. Too proud to admit it." "That doesn't excuse what she did," I said. "No, it doesn't," Mom agreed, "nothing excuses that. But, it would mean a lot to all of us if you came to the wedding. We miss you." I felt tears welling up unexpectedly. "I miss you too, sometimes." After we hung up, I sat with the invitation in my hands for a long time. Could I forgive them? Should I? The truth was, I didn't know. My family had hurt me deeply, they'd crossed lines that should never be crossed. But they were still my family, for better or worse. In the end, I realized forgiveness wasn't something I could force. It would come in its own time, if it came at all. What I could do was set clear boundaries and stick to them. I could decide what role I wanted my family to play in my life going forward, if any. I still haven't decided about the wedding. Part of me wants to go, to see if there's anything worth salvaging in my relationships with Karen and my parents. Another part of me is afraid that if I go, I'll slip back into old patterns, allowing myself to be used and disrespected. But for the first time, I feel like I have a choice. I'm not automatically obligated to do what my family wants. I can put myself first without guilt. I can demand respect. And that's a kind of freedom I never knew I needed until now. Whatever I decide about the wedding, one thing is certain, things will never go back to the way they were. Karen's deception destroyed our family as it was, but maybe, just maybe, something healthier can grow in its place.